One of my favorite TV shows comes out of South Korea, and it is called Hidden Singer. It started airing in 2012 and has run for 7 seasons over the course of about 10 years. In South Korea, this is labeled as a music variety show, and unfortunately there's nothing quite like it in the Western market. It's a singing competition show, but not in the same vein as something like American Idol or The Voice. Also, I believe only one season of this show was ever fully subtitled, which is unfortunate, but I still think it's fun to watch anyways. Japan and Korea are known for producing some pretty off-the-wall wacky entertainment content, but this show is an earnest one. The premise is that a famous singer and several impersonators of that singer get inside large isolated barrels and take turns singing lines of that singer's songs, so like sequential karaoke. Then, a live studio audience of typically around 100 people have to vote out an impersonator each round. However, because the famous singer and the impersonators are hidden inside the barrels, the audience can only judge based on what they hear, hence the name Hidden Singer. The singer's objective is to not get voted off. In that sense, you can sort of think of the impersonators and the show as a team working together to trick the audience. Now, I would love to show you a clip from the show so you can see how this works, but using a clip with audio will pretty much get this video terminated off of YouTube. But to explain it briefly, the first person will sing a line or two, the second the next few, and so on. Sometimes they sing in unison, as pairs or groups. Then, the audience will vote out the worst one. They're given remotes at the top of the show. So let's say you thought number 4 didn't sound right. You would press number 4 on your remote. So that's basically it. I think it's fun. As far as I'm aware, the show tries to recruit audience members that are fans of the artist, but there's always a few that aren't too familiar to spice things up. Along that note, this show might not be entertaining unless you're familiar with the artist and know their songs. While I myself am often unfamiliar with the artist, searching up their songs and then trying to guess immediately after is a fun experience. And in watching this show, I've come to like a ton of the songs that have been played on there. While many artists refrain from doing variety entertainment shows, many make an exception for this one. When else are they going to hear their voice coming out of somebody else's mouth? It's gotta be a strange sensation. Plus, I'm sure you can see that the production value is pretty ridiculous. There is also a celebrity judging panel filled with celebrities, family, and peers of the singer. They provide commentary in between or after rounds on where they think their friend is. Let's talk about the contestants/impersonators. These are just regular people who have auditioned for the show. In all fairness, some of them do sing for a living. For example, there are vocal teachers, musical actors and students, or singers trying to make it big themselves. But the rest do whatever. Even Koreans themselves are amazed at how many of their own citizens are phenomenal singers. As long as you sound convincingly similar, you can make the cut. There's been foreigners, kids, and even males impersonating female artists. While some impersonators are just there to compete, many are devout fans and value the opportunity to meet their artists more than winning. There seems to be 2 general strategies for impersonators. The first is to mimic the way the artist sounds in their finalized recordings. The second strategy is to mimic the way the artist currently sings live. This is generally more successful, but both have proven to be good methods. The impersonators also go through some rigorous training with the show's vocal coach, and spend a lot of time practicing the songs so they get the timing right and to memorize the lyrics. If you remember earlier when I briefly showed a clip of a foreign contestant, her name is Anna Darnley, and she actually made a vlog recounting the experience.
You get allocated your part about 5 minutes beforehand, and it's the production team that allocates the parts. It's the production team based on the notes that the vocal teachers have made that allocate the parts, and there's no quibbling with your part. So if you don't like it, it's kind of tough luck, suck it up.
I'm gonna be honest, I thought they only practiced certain lines, but this makes more sense. Being an impersonator is probably a fun experience, but they certainly have their work cut out for them. Alright, let's get back to the show. I'm gonna quickly go through how each of the rounds work since there's a couple of changes as the show progresses. This also means I'll be slightly spoiling a couple episodes, which I apologize in advance for. The first round I already talked about. The contestants sing, the audience votes, and then they discuss. When they tally the votes, the contestants stay in the barrels and the votes are displayed above. Only the eliminated person and the artist are revealed. The second round is the same, but there's another part. It begins like the first round, but then the song resumes about halfway or closer to the end, and the contestants will all exit the barrels to finish the song. There are lyrics posted in the barrel, but once they come out, they'll need to have them memorized. Then they'll eliminate someone, and only that person will reveal their name. The third round is the same, but without music stoppage and the discussion break. Instead, the instrumental of the song will continue for about 10 seconds, which is also the voting window. Then the song immediately continues and the contestants will exit the barrels. Pretty chaotic round, but also very entertaining since the audience gets immediate feedback. Before elimination, all remaining contestants will reveal their names. The fourth and final round is the same as the third, but instead of voting someone out, the audience votes for the person that they think is the artist. If the artist was eliminated before this, votes towards them won't count. The last remaining impersonator is cut a check for 100,000 Korean won times the number of votes they got. If they manage to accumulate a lot of votes, it can be a pretty decent payout. They also advance to the King of Kings portion of the season, a battle royale of the best impersonator of every artist from that season. On rare occasions, there are 2 runner-ups when they tie in votes. In that case, they both advance and receive the cash prize. The King of Kings portion of the show happens at the end of every season, meaning the show has to film all its episodes close together to not tie up everyone's time. The crowd here is also usually bigger. In a funny twist, all previous contestants are invited to come and watch, and they basically become cheerleaders for the impersonator from their episode. There's still a celebrity panel, and some of the artists from the season usually come as well. It's actually pretty cool that they come to support their impersonator. What I really like about this part is that for the artists that do show up, they get to hear the other impersonators for the first time. And since the season hasn't actually aired yet, this is the first time the impersonators get to hear other impersonators from other episodes. The way this portion of the season works is that each impersonator has to now sing the entire song. They can choose to perform any song by the artist, but most tend to pick the song that they felt they did the best with during the prior episode. Voting is similar to a normal episode's 4th round. At the midway point, the audience gets to grade the impersonator. I believe it used to be a simple yes or no, like, yeah, this person sounds like the artist they're impersonating, but in some of the later seasons they were asked to rate them out of 10. Impersonators generally suffer from any of 3 things at this point. First is they get the yips. The stakes are bigger and it's one single performance where they are the only one on stage. Remember, these are regular people, and for some, this may be the biggest crowd they've ever performed in front of. The second is their inability to adequately imitate the singer for several lines. In the episode, they basically only had to spit out 1 or 2 lines at a time. Here, you have to go the distance, and not every impersonator is good at that. Lastly, you have poor song selection. In general, every artist has some songs where their nuances are easier to imitate. The impersonator may also be more personally convincing with a specific song. But there have been instances where the impersonator picks a song that doesn't play to their strengths, sometimes at the recommendation of the artists themselves. But the ones who are good at this are really damn good. Some impersonators actually significantly improved between their episode and the King of Kings challenge. At the end, they used to do an ensemble performance with every single impersonator, but they haven't done it in recent seasons. I hope they start doing it again because it's a fascinating mix of voices. But of course, every show has some problems. I'd say the biggest problem with this show is that its voting pool is small and the line distribution is sometimes unfair or inadequate to really grade each person fairly. In the King of Kings portion, the stage order can greatly affect the scores as the audience starts to grade with relativity. There's also like 12 different artists getting impersonated here, and I would imagine a lot of the audience isn't going to be super familiar with every single one. Also, since they can't shoot a season until they have enough impersonators and artists available, there's usually a couple years in between seasons. The end result is really high quality though, so I'll give them a pass for that. But those are fairly minor in the grand scheme of things. The larger complaints come from fans who are listening at home. There's always a slew of butthurt fans saying, how could they get it wrong? It's so obvious where the artist is. To us at home, the show might seem easier than the audience is letting on. You might think they've been instructed on how to vote or that voting is rigged, Well, I've got some info here that might change that opinion. Going back to Anna's vlog, she herself states that the show is unscripted. That's pretty direct confirmation right there. The show's had like 400 impersonators at this point, and I figure one of them would have spilled the beans by now if the show is fixed. But if that's not good enough, then here's something else to consider. When we're listening to it at home, what we are experiencing is processed audio. A sound engineer has gone through the show's audio and used industry standard techniques like compression and equalization to balance the audio and get it fit for an edited broadcast. And anytime singing is involved, it's safe to assume that there is a bit of pitch correction. Sometimes the engineers sorta overdo it and it actually changes the tone too much. The singers and contestants are generally good enough that they don't need it, but tiny changes in those details can make a big difference to the ear in a brief moment. Then you have to consider the experience of the audience. It's basically an indoor concert. They are in a big room listening to the singers through loud-ass speakers. People around them are talking and making noise, and there's a ton of natural reverb from the unique acoustics of the room. All this makes the unique characteristics of someone's voice way harder to hear in a live setting. Fortunately, I have a better example because there happens to be footage directly from the show to support this. Here we have the winning impersonator for the actor and singer Im Chung-jung. The song is called A Glass of Soju or A Shot of Soju, depending on the translation. First, I'll play a bit of the studio recording, aka the version you can find on CD and via streaming. Then I'll play the broadcasted performance by the impersonator. Lastly, we actually have live audio from a camera filming one of the judges during the performance. So while not perfect, this will be the closest we can get to hearing what the audience heard.
술이 한잔 생각나는 밤 술이 한잔 생각나는 밤 술이 한잔 생각나는 그 좋았던 시절들 그 좋았던 시절들 여보세요 나야 거기 잘 지내니 여보세요 나야 거기 잘 지내니 여보세요 나야
Now, to me, even in the shoddy on-site video, I can definitely hear a distinction between it and the processed version. So for the people that think the audience is deaf or stupid, hopefully that helps put things into perspective. The show definitely seems more challenging in person. And that also makes the episodes that are challenging post-edit even more impressive. I'm sure the audience also experiences some fatigue that comes with being on set for a long time. I don't know how long it takes to tape an episode, but I imagine at least a couple of hours, considering the episodes themselves are usually at least an hour and a half. The songs are only a couple minutes long, so having to sit around for that long only to hear such a short clip might shock the senses a little bit. What makes this show enjoyable for a lot of people is the relationship that forms between the artists and their impersonators. A lot of this is lost in the translation, but once in a while you'll see an impersonator break down and you'll remember that a regular Joe has just met one of their favorite celebrities. Obviously, guessing during the rounds is the most fun, but learning about each impersonator and hearing from the artist adds a lot to the experience. The artists are also never butthurt when they lose. They never get seriously upset at the audience, and no artist has ever stormed off in a huff. This show accomplishes a lot of things on a technical level that are very impressive, but there's one thing that I haven't mentioned yet that is mind-blowing. The show has actually done 3 episodes on deceased artists. The 3 are Kim Kwang-suk, Shin Hae-chol, and Kim Hyun-sik. The earliest of these aired in 2013, well before all the current AI tech you're hearing today. So how did they do it? The simple answer is through the use of archived and live recordings of the artist. Since these artists operated mostly pre-2000s, the audio engineers applied filters to the contestants' microphones to give them a similar old-timey feel. The technique isn't perfect, and it's easier to sniff out watching the edited broadcast. The show still works the same, but when revealing the artist, the barrel opens and no one is there. It's a bit haunting, but also a bit beautiful. But what about the fact that the artist isn't around to provide commentary? Well, unfortunately there's no getting around that. Instead, the show invites close friends from the industry that have worked with the artist before. For Shin Chul's episode, his wife was actually present on set as an audience member. Now I understand some of you might be questioning the morality of doing an episode like this. Some estates have been known to milk an artist after their death. In my opinion, I think what they do here is pretty respectful. Honestly, the way I see it is that this show is as much for the artist as it is the viewers. While the show is still a competition, these episodes serve more as a reflection and tribute to the artist's legacy. A testament to the fact that the artist has made such a lasting impact that even after death, people are still listening to their music and even imitating them. For the live audience, this is the closest they will get to hearing the artist live. Once the music kicks in for the first round, it's like, wow, this is really happening. The circumstances surrounding Shin Chul's episode were particularly sad. His episode aired in 2015. Shin Chul passed away due to medical malpractice 1 year prior at the age of 46. Preparations for each episode are often done years in advance as the show works on tracking down impersonators. So with that in mind, the show is likely developing his episode before his death. He should have been alive then. Understandably, people couldn't stop crying during the episode. I think it's awesome that the legacy of these artists lives on through these ordinary people. When the winning impersonator of Shin Chul's episode participated in the King of Kings portion of the season, there was a comment that eloquently summed it up. Even through Google's shoddy auto-translate, the sentiment is clear and beautiful. Well, this got kinda sad, so here's some fun pieces of trivia. One of the show's impersonators actually became a successful artist and got an episode done on himself. His old impersonator buddies from the episode were also invited to be part of the celebrity panel. Another impersonator would later go on to become the show's current vocal coach. If all this sounds interesting and you actually want to watch some episodes of this show, it's unfortunately impossible for me to tell you where to find it. This show is produced by a Korean network called JTBC, but when they distribute it to a global streaming service, it depends on the region. In North America, I believe the show is licensed, although unsubtitled, to On Demand Korea. I think for Southeast Asian countries, it's probably on VIU. But other than that, I'm not sure. YouTube is probably your best bet if you're just interested in the guessing portion. Wikipedia is actually a pretty good resource in conjunction with this, but they have the results included in the episode info. So what I've done is created a Word doc that you can use to take you directly to the videos. See what I do for you guys? In this document, I've listed every single artist and their Korean name, sorted by season and episode order. All you gotta do is click the link and it'll take you directly to the video. For the artists that have full round compilations, you can find each song listed by the channel and Google those to hear how they sound. If it's an individual round, you can find the name of the song in quotation marks of the video title. It might be hard to search if you're on your phone though. If I were JTBC, I would work on getting this show subtitled and distributed globally. It is a great gateway to Korean music that isn't exclusively K-pop. This show was also spun off for several other countries including China, Italy, Thailand, and Vietnam. Apparently NBC has the rights to produce the show based in the USA, but nothing has ever come of it. The other shows also died off. With what seems like a good formula, I'm surprised a Western version of this show has never been produced. Over the years, I've thought about what Western artists I would want to see on this. For example, Green Day's Billie Joe Armstrong and Roland Orzabal of Tears for Fears. Roland's getting pretty old though, so they'd have to hurry up on that. If the technology is there to do deceased artists, it also opens the door for legendary ones like Elvis, Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, and Freddie Mercury. As for the Korean version, the list is pretty long, but there's a few singers that people have been dying to see since the show started airing. If Hidden Singer was ever adapted for a Western market, who would you like to see? Above anything, I would just want them to do the original justice. If you're familiar with The Masked Singer, that show is also adapted from a Korean show. Clearly the American version favors the theatrics, although I do credit them for the contestants. From what I've heard, the top ones have always been pretty good. Anyways, I've been dying to make a video about this show, and I'm happy to finally have had the time to do so. I think the concept is too good to go unnoticed. I understand not everyone will be interested in it, especially given that it's music in another language, but maybe someday they will produce a Western version, and hopefully it doesn't suck. As always, if there's anything I missed or if you have any questions, leave a comment and I'll do my best to get back to you. This has been a Breadballer production, and until next time, thanks for watching.